people talk about it every once in a while.
For more than 80 years, a town in McDonough County has been dry.
Thinking about us, being dry all these years when other towns, had approved.
Colchester Mayor Francie Welch says that approval has failed 4 times in the town.
People think they need to be voting yes when they need to be voting no.
On November 3rd, residents in Colchester will have yet another chance to allow the sale of alcohol.
I really do believe that's because they're not reading it. 47, 48, 49, let's see if we can find the 73.
Colchester City Clerk Donna Wetzel says the last time the measure was voted on was back in 1973.
About 230.
Welch says back then, 230 residents signed a petition to get the alcohol referendum back on the ballot. It didn't pass, but now fast forward to 2020.
Well, we just started walking, my wife and I, and like I said, in the evenings, get 10 or 12 names.
Longtime resident Randy Weir went door to door and collected 270 signatures, even though only 225 were needed.
And next thing you know, it's adding up, and I'm thinking, well, I believe it's going to maybe work.
And it's hard to find anyone who wants to vote yes on this measure. I went to the local gas station to hear what residents have to say, and everyone I talked to said they want the sale of alcohol. We're doing a story on the liquor vote here in Colchester. I'm doing a story on the liquor vote.
Number one is time. It's time. There's never been alcohol for years in this town.
But now in the town of about 1,500, it'll be up to the voters once again.
I would have people come in to my office and want to know what they had to do to get alcohol on the ballot.
In Colchester, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks. After months of protests and riots across the country surrounding policing, residents here in Macomb are asking what's being done here at the Macomb Police Department.
Hearing in, I guess, a town hall to discuss race issues in this community.
Asking city leaders to improve race relations in Macomb.
We're glad that these discussions are happening. We're getting closer to having a real discussion.
For months, one McDonough County group has been calling on the city council to take up the issue of police reform and racial justice.
It's a hard job, but the pool is the most important thing.
Aldermen say they have a better understanding where Macomb police stand, with hopes of bridging the divide between law enforcement and people of color.
Our department is very professional. Like I said, we are an accredited agency. Anybody that wants to come and investigate us, I'm open.
Police Chief Kurt Barker told the council the department's main focus right now is recruiting a diverse group of officers.
There's always improvements, like I talked about tonight, doing our recruiting. We need to do a little bit better on our recruiting, and we've got to do better on our hiring.
Barker says the department has a list of measures aimed at improving policy. That includes working to bring social workers on calls, some officers trained in crisis intervention. The entire force was trained in anti-bias policing. A complaint form is now available. Hire a chief diversity officer and plan First Amendment training for officers. Mayor Mike Inman agrees these are important topics to address in treating all groups fairly.
It's my ask that we continue to move in a positive direction to resolve these issues and not get bogged down in my way is the only way, this way is the only way.
And McMeekin says it's a step in the right direction, but more needs to be done to build trust with those who are called to protect and serve.
There's a lot going on here and none of this gets fixed until we truly have a discussion that brings in our most marginalized, least represented, least protected voices.
Chief Barker says there is currently a diverse group of applicants who applied to become officers here in Macomb, but he would like to see more. In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks.
I do have a lot of experience handling challenges.
New Western Illinois University President Dr. Guiyu Wong says he's up for the challenges the school faces because he's dealt with them firsthand.
I've seen growth, decline, flat, level.
Nearly 2 months on the job, WIU's 12th president says he's working to turn around the university's enrollment decline.
We have been trading up slowly, incrementally, and that's obvious. But we do have a lot of work to do.
Since Dr. Wong took office, he's instructed his team to study and lay out a plan by the end of the semester in 3 main areas: enrollment, retention, and university branding.
We want to grow the student enrollment in the near future and the long term.
Western's strategic plan set 3 years ago currently calls for 10,000 students by 2027. Dr. Wong says this remains a goal.
I think it's achievable, but I need our professionals to study that number.
Dr. Wong says in order to effectively carry out his plan, he's looking to hire 2 new vice presidents to oversee finances and student success.
Leadership is critically important for the success of a institution like ours.
As Western's new leader prepares for his first Board of Trustees meeting, he says no cuts or reduction measures are on the table right now, but student tuition and fees may be up for discussion.
We want our education to be affordable, to be accessible, at the same time high quality.
In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks. Officials are still investigating what all took place the night of September 15th, but in this News 3 exclusive report, the first officer who responded to the call says he wasn't sure what to expect, but it was one of his worst fears.
Dozens of things all at once. Is it real? Sometimes we get false reports.
Sergeant Curtis Bilbrey is still looking back on a day he'll never forget.
We were not sure whether the shooter was still on scene or not.
This 15-year WIU Office of Public Safety officer was the first on scene after receiving the call of a student shot inside WIU's Thompson Hall.
The main concern was for the safety of the public and the fear of how many people were injured or if somebody was in fact injured.
The call came out just after 10:30 p.m. Bilbrey says the scene was chaos as students raced out of the building as the fire alarm sounded.
The building was being evacuated, so students were everywhere.
Stayed awake and started getting ready, and then dispatcher Becker called back and said, it is real, we have a victim.
WIU Lieutenant Derek Watts was called in his sleep and says he knew he had to act fast.
A million things going through your head at the same time, trying to prioritize what you needed to get done.
Dozens of officers rushed to the scene with uncertainty.
We allowed people to filter out of the building, searching for the shooter as people were evacuating. And then once the crowd cleared, then we immediately went up to the 12th floor.
The officers say their training was put to the test.
Trained for the worst, and that day it happened.
But it's a situation the officers hope show how important their job is and why they answered the call.
There's some people in law enforcement that perhaps should not be in this chosen field, but the vast majority of officers want to help people.
There were nearly 60 officers that responded to the scene that night. Watts says the school is looking into upgrading security cameras, but they also want to stress that if you see something, say something. He says no guns are allowed on campus. In studio, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks. Incumbent Republican Noreen Hammond is once again making the push to keep her seat in office this 2020 election, and she's up against Democrat Scott Stoll for 93rd District State Representative. They both say they've made efforts to keep people safe the past 9 months of COVID-19.
Our campaign in and of itself has donated PPE to WIU and some of the local students and some of the local groups.
I was able to get masks, the KN95 masks in the very beginning, to a number of our healthcare hospitals.
Stoll feels it's time for change in the 93rd District, but Hammond says experience matters.
I think I provide a fresh face with new ideas, a different approach from where we've been at in the last 10 years or so.
We need someone who is experienced, who doesn't mind a challenge, that's for sure, and has integrity.
And integrity is what Hammond questions surrounding claims of campaign contributions, but Stoll says he has no part in it.
I have no allegiance to Speaker Madigan. I haven't received money from him.
I don't know him. I don't know Mike Madigan, okay? I didn't vote for Mike Madigan to be the chairperson of the Democratic majority.
Both candidates say funding education is a top priority.
We can fund our schools and level set our property taxes. That's boosting our economy.
What can we do and continue to do to attract our Illinois students here?
And focusing on health care, Stoll and Hammond say they know firsthand.
I see people every day that have to choose whether they're going to buy bread and milk for their family or buy a life-sustaining medication.
Addressing the issues as they relate to long-term care and eligibility requirements for long-term care.
In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks.